For everything from questions about cucumbers to homes on cul-de-sacs, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Ask Mr. Green Thumb in Real Estate Show with Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and James DeFreitas, the son. For the next hour, call in with your questions about gardening, growing your favorite veggies, and growing your profits in real estate. Call them anytime at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And a big good morning to you as we start off another edition of the Ask Mr. Green Thumb Gardening and Real Estate Show. And, of course, we have James, my son, and he just gave your number, which means people can call you if they've got real estate questions.
Absolutely. They can certainly give me a call if they have any questions in real estate. And, of course, if they have questions in gardening, they can certainly call you, or they can go to your website at AskMrGreenThumb.com. That's ASKMR greenthumb.com. If you go to the left corner at your website, there is an Ask button. People can click on that and they can submit gardening questions directly to you free of charge. We recommend people submit a photo. You know, if you have a question about your yard, plant, tree, shrub, whatever it may be, you need to make sure that you take a couple of photos, maybe up close and far away. It's important to get the leaf. You know, that's one of the ways that we identify how a tree, you know, if it's what a tree is or what a plant is we take a look at the leaf. And the same thing goes with a bug. You need to get something kind of far away so that we can see the general characteristics of it, and then something up close so that we can identify the different segments of the body, and that's how we can tell you what it is. So that's a free service at AskMrGreenThumb.com, and I highly encourage people to go to that. And it's funny, every time I mention that, we do get a pretty good uptick on the website of people that go and travel, and I always check the analytics, so that's why I always take a minute to mention it. But today, we have the one, the only, Steve Stanford with plants, and that's with a Z, and he is on today. And Steve, why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Well, thanks for having me, guys. I've been in the Tampa market for years and years now, and back about 20 years ago, bought an interior landscape company called Living Plants / Evergreen Interiors LLC. 25 characters in a mouthful, and 2 years into it, I shortened it to plants.com and plants.us, so it's PLANTZ. A little bit better on the marketing side, rolls off the tongue a little bit better, and gives us pretty good visibility here in the Tampa market. Tampa, Lakeland, all the way Clearwater, St. Pete.
Right, and Yahtzee Tree Service was already taken, so
yeah, it was already taken.
We like Yahtzee Tree Service.
We love Yahtzee.
We love Stafford Tree Service now even more.
Right,
but we've known you for a good long time now, and people always say good things about Steve.
Well, good. I mean, we've got a good base of business here in the area. Great employees serving awesome customers. We also have a website at plants.com, plantz.com, where we sell high-quality foliage plants nationwide.
So you will ship these to people in New York, Washington, wherever, right?
We sure did.
And I know you do, because we saw your operation. In fact, James and I, we helped videotape some stuff for you, and Steve was the star. He did a great job, as you know he would, and answered questions. We kind of set up some questions, and of course Steve had all the answers, as we expect him to. He knows his plant material, his indoor plant material especially well, though you know a lot of things in a lot of areas when it comes to horticulture.
You might be overselling me, Stan, but
hey.
I do know a few things about plants, so fire away.
You know, a lot of people seem to have, they get a few plants. They get something for Christmas. Aunt Martha gave them something. And then they take it and they stick it. You know, that dark corner over there really could use something to brighten it up. And I don't know why. I watered it 2 months ago. Why is it not looking so good?
Well, as you well know, there's this thing called photosynthesis. And photosynthesis produces, it's the respiration of the plant, produces the sugars in the food the plant needs to grow. And without the sunlight or artificial light pushing the photosynthetic process, you get no growth, stagnant growth, and eventually the plant will fade away and die.
And the best thing we like about that scenario is the plant can look good for a while in a certain spot, but then you got to buy another one.
Yeah, well, a lot of people do look at it, I think, as you change out flowers, you change out things, and changing out some of your indoor plants. Don't whip yourself too hard. It happens. Death will occur to some of your plants. Some plants, annuals, of course, live and die all within a season.
They do.
And people will go, well, okay, that's just part of doing business. I mean, I tell people that all the time. I was out injecting some trees the other day, which I do too, some palms with OTC. And I said, look, if we start this, you're going to have to see my face every 3 to 4 months like you do more, than you do the pool guy. If you don't want to do that, let's not start. And she goes, well, okay, well, yeah, you're not that pretty, but yeah, I wouldn't mind. I can see your face every 3 to 4 months and it'll be happy. And I said, good. Well, as long as we understand what we need to do. And the same thing I think is true if somebody has a upper end restaurant and they want to have some plants from plants, they're probably better off to have you as a service come in and check them, check that water, check those leaves, because you've already got your staff full out doing all the things they do to run a restaurant or run a hotel. They don't need one more thing that somebody's going to forget.
They're going to forget, and when they do it, they won't do it well. They won't do it right. They won't adjust the soil moisture to the level it needs to make the plant thrive and get through the next interval. So there's definitely some luck in growing plants inside, but there's some science to it too, and we rely on some of the science to get us by and maybe do a better job of taking care of a plant than your average waiter or waitress. Nothing against you guys, but you know what I mean.
Hey, sure. I just want them to bring me my food and smile.
That's right.
If they do that, then I am real happy to tip them 20% and say, gosh, you guys did a great job and the food was good. So they don't really want one more thing to have to worry about because it's a full-time job. And
sure. And one thing that we've talked about previously, and because I have had the plants with a Z indoctrination here, I do know of one tool that I think people should probably put in their basket. And again, I believe you call that the soil sleuth.
The old soil sleuth.
Yeah.
So right now, and what's really cool is we just had the Tropical Plant International Expo right here in Tampa. It's usually the Broward County Civic Center because it's near the growers in Homestead. They moved it here this year because the Civic Center is under construction, a renovation. So it's going to be in Tampa the next couple of years. So we just went through all kinds of educational courses. The expo hall was filled with beautiful, colorful plants, green plants, all kinds of stuff from all over the country, and it was really, really cool. But we did get some updates on what IFAS is doing, what different growers are doing, different professionals handling the growth of plants and managing all that. And it was really cool to have it right here in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for those of you that don't know, IFAS is the Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences for the University of Florida, a part of the Extension Service, which I'm happy to say I worked for 8 years as an extension
I think that's when
horticulturist.
When we send off for soil tests or...
Yeah, sometimes, we've done that with nematodes, and we've done that with some of the palm samplings.
Well, back when we had treatment for nematodes, I don't know that we do anymore, do we, or don't we?
The only thing I can tell people for nematodes right now is if you really increase the bacteria count, good bacteria, now it's kind of like us. We have 4 to 6 pounds of bacteria in our stomachs and our intestinal tract, and you may not want to think about that, but there's actually more bacteria, good bacteria in you than most other cells in your body. And without it, you would die. So, good bacteria are important. Some of these good bacteria eat upon nematodes. And I think, that's just the way, that's something you could do. Now, it's a lot of times in the office situation where you've got a plant, but you've got usually are working with a pretty what I call a sterile medium to begin with.
Sure.
So the chances of getting hit with nematodes in an office situation are not the same as in your backyard.
I'll flip it around on you, though. We're using beneficial nematodes to go after the gnat larva in the soil profile. We just finished poinsettia season. The growers aren't real keen on doing a lot of a lot of preventative measures for gnats because it's such a short-term crop that we end up with gnats in offices, and they are the bane of our existence in the interior landscape business. And
what do you do for that?
Well, there's beneficial nematodes. There are some synthetics, but the best measures are to let the dang soil dry out to the point where it's not a hospitable host for the nematode, for the gnat.
Gotcha. So change what it likes and make it dry, and it doesn't like that, so they're going to go away. That makes a lot of sense.
Of course, the problem there is if you get it too dry, then it starts to drop some leaves because it goes, I'm in self-defense mode here.
Right.
You put me into the desert, and I'm not a desert
so
plant.
Back to the soil sleuth that we talked about. That thing will save your plant, and it's and again, now back in the day, it seems to be that was one of the things that was kind of included in one of your when they would buy a plant from you. I assume that's an add-on thing that people can purchase now still?
Yes, we encourage the purchase of the Soil Sleuth with any plant you buy from us.
Sure.
I think we're selling it for just about cost, just to put it in people's hands. But what we found when we packaged it together that we have repeat customers and
they didn't need it.
They didn't need it, so we peeled it off. It's a separate item, but it's something our technicians and our support people use and coach folks on how to keep the soil moisture correct through a pretty extended interval.
Sure. Yeah. Now, it just makes sense. I mean, it's one of those things where even if you are essentially giving them away at cost, if people can have that tool, at least they're not going to make that mistake if they're using it. The big question is are they using it?
Well, you got to use it. You got to poke it down in the soil, pull the soil out, feel it with your fingers. If it's moist, you don't water. If it's dry, you water. Back to the technology, there's all kinds of electronic sensors these days. I have not sold that those are effective. I know they're dang expensive,
right?
And it's not economically feasible yet to outfit an office with electronic sensors. So right now we're relying on the old school. We throw the soil probe down in the soil. If there's moisture there, we do not water and we move on.
Well, exactly. And, and my thing is that we have so many technical doodads that are super expensive, not that great, and sometimes the old school is still the best school. And if you have a tried and true method, I think why not go with that? We are talking to Steve Stanford with Plants, and that's with a Z, and we will continue talking to him when we come back from the break, and we're going to ask him all sorts of interesting questions, so you do not want to change that dial.
Stay with us as the Plant Talk and Real Estate Talk continues, and of course, our indoor plant talk continues with Steve Stanford from Plants. And now we'll go listen to some more music. No, stay with us as the Plant Talk continues.
Interested in having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at AskMrGreenThumb.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Green Thumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Give them a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
I think James and I are happy that we have Steve with us here to answer some of your indoor plant questions, because I know I get a lot of questions on indoor plants. It seems like it's a mystery for folks, and especially even in Tampa Bay. I mean, I just did a story recently with our own Roger P. Schulman about cold, because we're not supposed to have cold here. But as I said the other day, all my northern friends, your cold came into my backyard. I don't like it. You got to come get it and bring it back, because this is Florida.
Sure. See, the temperature in Anchorage, Alaska, the low was like 35 the other night, and the low in Brooksville was 34.
I was going to say.
That's insane.
Yeah, I'm moving to Anchorage where it's warmer.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because I saw on Facebook some friends that live in Orlando, Florida. And so what they did is they went out there, they took a picture because they literally had some ice on their windshield. And the caption was, "Okay, northern friends, what do I do?" Yeah. I mean, that's, so it's a good point, a good talking point in terms of, we do get into these cyclical cold temperatures. And actually, before we started the show today, you told Steve a very interesting story, and I think that that would be an interesting one to talk about with regards to how cold it got and some pipage.
Okay, we're going back to 1962. I was a very wee youngster back then, but I was going to grammar school in Northeast St. Pete. Actually, I was going to North Shore School, still there. And, in fact, my old house is still, well, it's not there. But
your old house is not there.
But there's an $850,000 house where my little bungalow was when I grew up in Northeast St. Pete, across from North Shore. But when I was a kid, they had the old porcelain, and Steve's probably old enough to remember the porcelain, water facility. You might have even had it.
Oh, yeah. I tried to remove some porcelain tile with a hammer and a chisel, and all it did was spark.
Anyway, the long story of the short is we had 3 days of down below 32 degrees here, and that does not happen in Florida. Well, you can say it doesn't happen until you do. I kept thinking, what would the climate change people, you know what they were saying back then is that we were going into another long winter age. We were having global cooling.
Now it works either way because they gave up on the global warming and now it's climate change.
Now, if you have a bad weather day one way or another,
you
tsunami,
win either way.
Hard rain, no rain, you can always win.
You can win.
I'm 58, and I remember the threat of it turning cooler, that it was going to get colder and colder and colder, and that was the threat when I was growing up. It's flipped now, but
yeah, but when you look at history, our world changes. I mean,
climate change.
Climate
change has always been. I mean, go back and ask the dinosaurs if there was climate change. There probably was some climate change for them. May have been a big cloud of dust that killed everything. We don't really positively know what happened, but we do know things have been happening forever and will continue to happen. So, we recently just had some cool weather here. It happens. Unfortunately, the tropical plants don't like it. And Steve was saying he's mostly shipping locally right now. He doesn't want to ship to Chicago or New York. But now when the spring comes and the summer, he'll be glad to do it again.
So that's interesting. So when people go to yourplants.com website with a Z, and I got it this time. And so when they go to that website and they go to purchase a plant, I assume that it will be zip code dependent. So in other words, if I'm in Anchorage, Alaska, it's not happening. But if I'm fairly near Florida and in the right temporal zones, then it's a plant that could be shipped at that point.
Correct.
Yes.
And in fact, we have shipped to Anchorage.
Wow, that just trips me out.
It was a summertime
deal.
It was probably like a June, July or something.
Yeah.
Nice plant up there. I got a picture of it. Anyway, so we're focused on getting nice, beautiful tropical plants to folks in Florida right now because we can distribute through FedEx all over the state and even into the Southeast. But right here in Tampa, we have an option that we can deliver it to you, ship it to you, or you can come out to our facility and pick it up, and there's no charge for that.
That's fantastic.
But we are offering a special for Ask Mr. Green Thumb listeners. So if you go to our website, plants.com, plantz.com, and you buy a plant, use the code AMG20, the 20 AMG20, and you get 20% off the price of the plant.
That's fantastic. And again,
through February.
To get to your website again is
plantz.com.
Okay, and then the coupon code one more time for the people that are like me who have trouble writing things down.
AMG for Ask Mr. Green Thumb. So
boy, that
AMG20.
AMG20. That is perfect.
I just think February coming up, Valentine's Day, maybe a nice living plant you could give your significant other, be it mom, be it your wife, be it your girlfriend.
That's right.
And we think that is a grand idea. A plant lives. The thing is, I like it when somebody will come back and go, I remember when I got that plant. And there's so much stuff you get, knick-knack stuff that people give you, and you go, I don't know. I mean, I want another this or that. But a plant is something that's living, and it's something you can really enjoy, kind of like having your dogs or cats.
And if I may make a quick PSA moment, this morning I was out there by the dumpster, and I was picking up all of these poinsettias that people had put out there that are perfectly fine. I mean, they didn't look as perfect when they, as when they bought them, but I was going to get ready to plant them around my landscape in my backyard area, because I, again, respect life. And, they were throwing them away because it's not Christmas time anymore. Right. And I don't understand that mentality. You only like it when it's 30 days a year, and then you're going to throw it away like it's a toy. And I was out there picking them up, and I'm going to plant them when I get home today, because they still look okay to me, and I'm going to keep growing them, because you told me in a previous episode that they can be more than just an annual.
Sure, they could live if they don't get killed by the cold. And that is a possible, but they normally live through. Normally, it's like a hibiscus. You're going to wind up having to cut them back, but you want to anyway, because otherwise you're going to have a 6-foot-tall poinsettia next year. Now, that's still pretty. To some people, it might be out of proportion to their landscape.
Mm-hmm. I'm not that particular.
Yeah, you're not. You've got kind of what I call a wooded setting behind where you live anyway.
Absolutely. Well, we are talking to the great Steve Stanford here with Plants, and we will continue our conversation with him when we come back from the break, so please do not change that dial. And I'll let you take it away.
Well, I was going to say, and Steve's still crying about Meatloaf, and we don't blame him, because he was a great star. Anyway, you want to talk about almost anything that comes up with plants and trees, we're with you. You stay with us as the Plant Talk continues.
Want to talk real estate auctions? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127. Or go online to FloridaAuctionTeam.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Green Thumb in Real Estate Show. Connect online at AskMrGreenThumb.com. Got questions about gardening, real estate, or both? Give him a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I am Stan, and of course you are.
And of course I am James DeFreitas, and we're here every Sunday morning from 8 to 9. And I just want to mention to people out there that, if you have gardening questions, you can hop on AskMrGreenThumb.com, and you can sit there and you can click on the Ask button, and you can submit a gardening question free of charge. People can go right there. We do that, and we usually get back to people in 24 to 48 hours. So, again, it's a free service, so be patient. If it's a holiday, it might take a little longer, but we do return every email, even though we do get 30 or 40 emails a week that are asking about this sort of thing.
And sometimes crazy things too, like I brought this leaf back in my purse from Bora Bora.
Right.
What do you think it is? Well, A, you shouldn't have brought it back from Bora Bora without going through customs.
Right.
And B, I'm not identifying the type of marijuana you brought back, so that's just the bottom line.
Unless you want us to endorse
yeah,
it.
That's right. Unless we're doing some new CBD oil around here. And
that brings an interesting question, because it's something we talked about in between the break there with Steve Stanford of Plants. And we were talking a little bit about how the marijuana industry has changed inventory levels for other plants that you used to be able to get rather easily.
Yes. So the major growing areas in the state of Florida are Homestead, as far south as you can get, and get reasonably priced land to grow foliage plants. And then over in Apopka, there's a pretty big market for it over there. But what's happened since the marijuana growers have moved in on some of these old-time farms, it's displaced growing space for foliage plants and bromeliads and orchids, and it's put a strain on our industry, and that supply's gone down, price is going up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like everything else.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, I understand, why they're doing it, obviously, the financial reasons behind it, but at the same token, I didn't realize until you told me today that the restrictions on that. I mean, you cannot just go into the marijuana business. You said there were some statutes, I believe, or
licensing.
Every single person I meet, hey, Steve, you going to get into the marijuana growing business?
Right.
No, I can't.
Right.
I'm precluded because of the law. The law provides that you needed to be in the growing business in the state of Florida for 30 consecutive years to qualify for a license to grow marijuana.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so, little guys, you know, I mean, I've been running the thing for 20 years now, and I didn't even qualify.
Right.
So you're 10 years out. No.
I guess.
So really, it's the Good Old Boys Club.
The Good Old Boys Club is now subleasing their space to growers and partnering with people who specialize in marijuana growing, and using that part of the law and using their space to grow marijuana.
Wow. I mean, that's you know, I mean, good for them, bad for competition.
I got a feeling the marijuana thing is going to get overgrown as well.
Yeah. I mean, the one positive that I see from all of this is that, you know, if people are buying it from, you know, a medical dispensary, it seems to me that there's a lot less chance for people buying a product that isn't what they think it is, you know, and less chances for people having a problem with it being laced with something else. So I guess if people are gonna do it, and I'm not at all purporting that people should do it, I think there might be some specific uses that people might be okay with. I mean, you know, if you truly have a medical ailment, if you have cancer, and if, you know, I mean, these kinds of things I could kind of get behind and say, okay, well, you know, it's not my scenario, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there couldn't be an applicable reason to use it.
Anyway, let's go back to the indoor plants that we can grow and should grow. And
legally.
Let's talk about pick out your top 3 or 4 favorite indoor plants that people might want to grow.
My favorite indoor plant is the Cantia palm.
Cantia palm.
Cantia palm, it's germinated. It's the genus species Halia forestiana. It's native to an island off of Australia, where it's currently we get the seeds from. It's germinated there, started in Australia, it gets shipped to Hawaii, and it's grown to maturity in Hawaii and shipped to the mainland from Hawaii. It's just a fabulous, elegant.
Do you ever try to grow any of these directly from seed?
I don't. There's a grower in Homestead that'll grow, and it's interesting because in Hawaii, the soil medium is cinder. It's lava rock.
Right.
And the lava rock is very porous, and it's very, very difficult to overwater a plant. It's very good porous material. But there are some Florida-grown Kentias, but the environment here doesn't equal the environment in Hawaii, where it's cooler nights, warm days, 365, and that's the best thing for growing a Kentia. But they are slow growers. They are on the more expensive side, but they will last longer.
Well, yeah, if something lasts for years, then it's probably worth paying more than buying something that could die in 6 months.
On the other end of the spectrum, but we also offer is the Areca palm. Mm-hmm. You know, the Areca palms, you can buy them at the big box stores all day long, and they don't handle lower light conditions as well as the Kentia palm, and people still think they do, and they go inside, and they don't last in 6 months maybe inside. Mm-hmm. Unless you got it in high bright light. If you got it in high bright light, you got a chance of sustaining the thing inside.
But they got a good deal.
They got a good deal.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. The problem with a good deal is if it doesn't live, then you always wonder how good a deal was it.
And so I've got another plant that we're marketing right now. It's called Giganta, and it's in the Dracaena family, and it looks like a small corn plant. The name is Giganta. It's a short corn plant. It comes from actually a different genes, but it's such a beautiful plant. It'll grow about 4 feet tall and wide, and it has the beautiful yellow variegation in the leaves. And I really love that plant. It's because it's durable.
Well, the last time we had you on here, I was asking you about what your favorite plant was, and I think you said the Ficus lyrata.
Well, the Ficus lyrata has been our best-selling plant.
Okay.
We've shipped over 2,000 Ficus lyrata all over the country.
Wow.
All over the country. Everywhere except Hawaii. And it's been our best seller. Now there's a new ficus. It's not a new ficus. Nothing's new in horticulture. It's just trendy.
Right.
The trendy plant right now is the Ficus Audrey.
Okay.
And the Ficus Audrey is nothing more than a cultivated banyan tree.
Oh.
But it's lighter leaves. You can see the veins in the leaves. And once the designers latch on to something like that, like they did the lyrata, and still the lyrata is by far the king of the jungle, more prevalent than anything. But I think you're going to see a lot more Audreys in the background of folks doing interviews on TV.
Okay, interesting. Well, yeah, it's definitely, there's always ebbs and cycles in every plant choice, and I'm sure Interiorscapes definitely has their people that have their favorites. So, yeah, I mean, again, we're talking to Steve Stanford here with Plants, and that's with a Z, and I want people to understand that, if they want to, he runs a preeminent plant rental business in the Tampa Bay area. If you have a hotel or if you're a manager somewhere and you need somebody to come in and provide, to make your space look as beautiful as possible, this is something that is in Steve's wheelhouse, and he can help you with that. And I would imagine, too, as we start to, continue to come out of the COVID mess, that people will be gathering again for weddings and events and all these other things. And this could be another area that I know that you guys get into doing, which is making things look beautiful for certain occasions.
Yes, we do short-term rentals. The event business in Tampa is definitely picking up. We just through the whole sports gig that we lost revenue on through COVID, World Series income, Super Bowl income, and a couple of Stanley Cups.
Sure.
It was tough. I mean, billions of dollars evaporated from the Tampa Bay economy.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's on the comeback. People are gathering. We're seeing office managers want to. The office is going to be a different space. It's going to be a place where the company owners want their employees to come meet, brainstorm, innovate, and then go home. And so the office space structure is going to change a bit. But where plants play a role is it's a welcoming environment. Studies have shown that people are more innovative, more productive with plants in the environment. So we think it's a positive thing for our industry.
Biophilia. Yeah, you cannot say that word enough. And it's one of the reasons it's part of your commercial, and it's because, we do have an innate desire to love plants and, to have them in our environments. And it also, people worried about COVID, well, geez, do something about it. Get a plant in your house and clean that air in your house. I mean, you've said before in the past that having interior plants in your house helps to be a natural air purifier. So why wouldn't you want to do that?
It's one of the natural characteristics of the plant that it'll pull VOCs. Those are volatile organic compounds that they'll pull them out of the air, metabolize them, and kick out some oxygen.
Absolutely. So that seems like a win-win.
Taking in carbon dioxide. Yeah, great idea.
Yeah.
So it's a healthy thing for people. I know NASA did a study years ago and said, hey, plants were a great addition to purifying the air, kind of a natural way. Plus, you get to see something visually. I mean, I like to see a new little leaf coming out, or my wife's orchid in flower, which speak of something that flowers for weeks and weeks and months. It's not like hibiscus where it's gone tomorrow.
Well, I think that's really the part of the biophilic element. You want to see something grow, you want to be part of its growth, and you want to feel like you're contributing. And I think that, biophilia is not limited to plants. It's people's innate attraction for one another and other living things.
There you go. I knew you would fill in the gaps of my definition. We are talking to the great Steve Stanford here, and we will continue talking to him after this break.
The great Steve Stanford. We are so glad to have him in here, though. He's our buddy, he's our pal, and he should be your buddy and pal as well.
I'm not going to be able to get through the door.
That's right. Stay with us.
Interested in having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at AskMrGreenThumb.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Green Thumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Give them a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I am Stan, of course, the dad, and you are James, the son. And I was going to say, if you've got a real estate question, we're not doing that today so much because we are so fortunate to have Steve Stanford from Plants in, but you can always give James a call if you've got that burning question. He is
absolutely. I mean, even people that are in the business, I always tell people when I'm, giving talks to real estate companies is that I don't care if you've been in the business, for 30 years. There might be a different perspective that someone else could bring to a situation, and I'm happy to provide that second opinion on something that you might be dealing with. So, and again, I don't know everything, and I'll tell you when I don't. I'll just say, well, I'm sorry, I don't know, and I'll have to research that and get back to you. So,
well, that's true for all of us. And even in, Steve's been in plants forever. I've been in horticulture forever. And there's still sometimes something that I'm not sure about that we have to send a sample off to Gainesville for, somebody to say, hey, it's this.
Right. And, we were talking just before the break ended that, you were talking about the Giganta and you were talking about the Ficus lyrata as being one of the plants that you sell the most. And the other thing that is occurring a lot in the horticultural space, and actually it's very timely because I was doing some eminent domain work yesterday, and I was calling around trying to get the latest prices. And so I was actually calling out to the fine folks over there at Sunscapes. I'll give them a little plug because they're very, very nice lady, Tracy, who owns that place, and Steve's nodding, so I know he knows.
We've gotten some great stuff from them.
Yeah, so they're very nice people over there, and but one of the things that they're advertising on all their palms, and I guess they've been doing this for quite some time, is when you go to buy a palm, they're calling it OTC certified, and so that that gives you a pretty good indicator that they've already been treating the trees, from its infancy up until the time that they're selling it to try to give you, some kind of concept of a warranty. With problems that the palms are going to face if you don't have somebody with horticultural knowledge looking after them post transplant.
Well, even Steve, we were talking about that. I injected a palm the other day, and I said, look, you're probably going to lose the palm. I mean, I'm the kind to tell you, shoot you straight. And I said, this palm, that palm, they're going to live. But this palm, it's half dead. So I said, if you want, I'll inject it, but, I'm predicting this now. And I almost rather predict on the wrong side or the hard side than say, I walk on water. As I told her, I said, only one man walked on water, and that's not me. So, you got to be, to me, you want to be as brutally honest with somebody about what's going to happen.
I have called them dead before, and we've revived them.
Wow. That's cool. Yep.
It's overdosing with the OTC. Instead of every 3 months, you do it weekly. And we have brought one back. But one, just a couple palms down, didn't make it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it's like people. I mean, statistically, a lot of the people who died from some of the virus problems we had were, if you're 95 years old, you don't have the immune system you had when you were 20. And
sure. And you were, something that you've educated me over the years, too, is that, palms are fundamentally different in terms of their vascular structure than regular trees. And I'm not sure if people really realize it, but if you...
It's a monocot.
Yeah,
it's a monocot. It's a grass.
It's a grass. And people don't seem to and again, how many times do people ever really pay attention to when a palm tree is dead and it gets cut down? They never really go over and look at how that tree is actually doing what it does. And it looks like little tiny soda straws inside there.
It's called vascular bundles.
Yeah.
And they do have, it's kind of phloem and xylem in there as well, but it's a vascular bundle system as opposed to a dicot, which has two main leaves, which we teach in horticulture school. And, that's the reason, the major differences between the two. Now, my old radio partner on a different station many moons ago wanted to play Stump the Star. We had a little game going, and I asked him, I said, which family's bigger, monocots or dicots? And he said, dicots. And I said, and you would be wrong. Monocot family is bigger. Think of all the millions of grasses out there. And, just going to look at ornamental grasses, we were looking at some the other day for eminent domain work, which we get into quite a bit. And James has been helping me more and more, taking over part of that business. We go out and count plants. We were down and counted 20,000 plants at one nursery. Big job down in South Florida. They were taking the whole nursery, and Unfortunately, I think they came in with a bulldozer and just bulldozed everything down when they were through because it was more work than coming in and taking things.
And that begs a question, too, because it's something I was talking to with Tracy at Sunscapes Nursery, is she was saying that only the city of Orlando, it's the only city that ever reached out to her and said, hey, listen, we're going to get ready to bulldoze thousands of palm trees that were over, all of them were over 16 foot of clear trunk. And she's looking at that and going, man, that's thousands of dollars of growth time.
Sables or what?
She indicated in the conversation, but I'd hate to say which one it was. It sounded like it was expensive. They were expensive ones, worth her time. And she went over there, I guess, with 6 or 8 semi-trucks and collected as many as she could, And, and hats off to her. I'd love to encourage whoever the guy, there's always a guy or gal at any city who probably gets to help make a determination as to what to do with this sort of thing. And, and again, another PSA moment. If there's somebody out there listening who is in charge of a local city somewhere and you're going to get ready to just bulldoze these things, call a local nursery who specializes in this sort of thing rather than just throwing it out or bulldozing it, because it could be repurposed, resold, and reused in a new landscape,
especially the palms.
Yeah, especially palms.
Live oaks, different story.
Yeah. You better have some serious equipment for that.
Though we did a consult earlier last year up in North Florida, where a guy who is raising he moves big oaks, huge oaks, and he's moving them for Disney. And he had a great operation going on.
Yeah, and that was the great Gregory Ricks, wonderful eminent domain attorney.
Well, he was the attorney we were working with.
He was the attorney we were working for that case. And so I always like to give a special shout out to wonderful eminent domain attorneys in the Tampa Bay area, and he is certainly one of them. Gregory
of course,
Ricks.
we had to drive to almost the Georgia border line, and we were, I think, the only ones with any masks on. I had a mask on because at the time I was pre-heart change, and but I thought we went to a little restaurant up there, and they looked at me like, "What the heck are you wearing a mask for? Are you one of them commies?" And I just said, for me at the time, I was getting ready to get a new heart, and I thought, why take a chance?
That's right.
Anyway,
but
sidebar.
So, and again, it's just one of these things with, I told the story earlier about throwing away the poinsettias just because it's not Christmas time anymore. And the same thing with palm trees or any other expensive items in a landscape. I would recommend, if it can be moved and transplanted, that people should probably consider doing that. So, Steve, is there some things out there in the interior space that people should be thinking about as we come into spring?
Well, we talked about climate change a little bit, and folks think that there's very little climate change in interior environments, but that's not true. I'll coach people through a situation where they've got a plant in a south window, and sun's plowing through the window during the summertime, and everything's good. The sun goes lower in the sky in the winter. It gets blocked by some trees. And there's, the temperature goes down slightly. The temperature's probably not the prevalent variable, but it gets less light. It doesn't do as well. And at that point, you need to think about moving it to an east or a west window.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So a brighter light if you can.
You don't think about.
Yeah. And it's what you don't think about that's going to kill your plant.
Right.
So pick up that soil sleuth. Make sure that you're paying attention to where you put that interior plant in your home. If it's got a big, broad, wide leaf, well, that gives you an indicator on its light level. I mean, you probably should be paying attention to it. And, of course, you've done hundreds of videos on your website to educate people as to what they need to be doing about that particular plant.
Yes, and I want to make sure your listeners know that during the month of February, if you use AMG20, the discount code AMG20, you get 20% off your purchases of plants on plants.com, plantz.com.
That's right. That's with a Z, folks. So you
get that fiddle leaf fig, which is what you were talking about earlier.
You've always wanted. The Ficus Audrey is hot now. So.
Right, and people out
Feed
there.
me, Seymour.
So when's the cutoff? Is it after springtime? Then do we still open up the store to everybody in the?
No, the store's open. We're taking orders from all over the country right now, but we've got disappointed people in Chicago.
Right.
I think we can ship to Chicago right now. I'm like, we can't. We use heat packs, but they're only good to a certain temperature and for a certain longevity. So right now we're focused on the Southeast and Florida, and hopefully some folks will use that code and get a nice, beautiful foliage plant for their house.
Get a discount for it.
Absolutely.
You've been wanting to brighten up that area?
Well, we have had the wonderful time of being on the air with Steve Stanford for the last hour.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And he's a fantastic guest as always, a wealth of knowledge, and we look forward to having him on again.
We enjoyed it. As always, make sure you go out and, take a moment, look at those plants, take a big breath in, enjoy your life, and as Teddy used to say, live it up.
Want to talk real estate auctions? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127. Or go online to FloridaAuctionTeam.com.